Chapter 6. The Missing Jewellery. As Dan and his dad finished their lunch, one of the hotel maids came into the office. She told Dad that some of the guests' valuables were missing. "What sort of valuables?" asked Dad.
"Watches, money and jewellery," said the maid. "I think someone has stolen them."
"That's very bad," said Dad. He looked worried. "We must try and catch the thief. Do you think it is one of the guests?"
"Yes, and the other maids think so too." "I could try and find out who it is," said Dan eagerly.
"I think you've helped enough for today," said Dad. "Don't you?" After lunch, Dad went to talk to the other maids. Dan read some more of his book, but he soon got bored. He heard the hum of a vacuum cleaner outside the office.
"Perhaps I can help," he thought. "I can't make a mess with a vacuum cleaner, can I?"
Dan looked out of the office door. He saw the maid switch off the vacuum cleaner and walk away. When she had gone, Dan went over to the vacuum cleaner. He switched it on and began to clean the carpet.
"This is good," he thought. "Now I am being helpful."
Dan pushed the vacuum cleaner up and down. Then he carried it down the stairs to the floor below. He tried running with it to clean the carpet quicker. Suddenly, the door to one of the guest rooms opened, and a woman stepped out. She was holding a handbag. Dan bumped into her, and she dropped the handbag. Several watches, rings, and necklaces fell onto the carpet. The vacuum cleaner sucked them all up. Dan stopped and stared. He switched off the vacuum cleaner.
"You silly boy!" the woman exclaimed. "I'm sorry," said Dan. "I didn't see you."
A man came out of the room. "What's going on?"
"This silly boy has sucked up my jewellery," said the woman. "It's all inside that vacuum cleaner."
"Open it at once," said the man angrily, "and find my wife's jewellery." Dan clicked the vacuum cleaner open and pushed his hand inside it.
"I can't find anything," he said.
He pushed his hand in further, and a big cloud of dust came out of the vacuum cleaner. It went all over Dan, the woman, and the man.
"You silly boy," said the man, coughing.
Then Dan felt the pieces of jewellery.
"I've got them!"
he cried. He pulled out his arm, and another big cloud of dust went everywhere.
"Oh, look how dirty they are,"
complained the woman as Dan gave her the jewellery. The man was very angry with Dan. "You've upset my wife, you've covered us in dust, and you've made a terrible mess," he shouted. "I will tell the manager about this."
"I was only trying to help,"
said Dan. As the man and his wife walked away angrily, Dan wiped the dust from his face. Then he saw Jane coming towards him. When she saw Dan covered in dust, Jane stopped.
"Dan, is that you?"
He nodded, and she laughed.
"It's not funny," Dan said. "I feel horrible."
He told her what happened. "Oops," Jane said. "Those guests don't sound very nice."
"They're not,"
said Dan. "I don't think your dad will be pleased," Jane said. "Do you?" Dan shook his head. "When I try to help, something always goes wrong." "Never mind," said Jane.
Come on, you can get washed and change your clothes in one of the empty rooms. They soon found an empty room. I think I'll have a bath, said Dan as he went inside. Good idea, said Jane. Nothing can go wrong with a bath, can it? I hope not, said Dan with a grin.